because his mic was not plugged in.
We'll do it
Hello?
live.
Thank you,
Can
Nemo.
you hear me?
Let me check it. Yeah, we'll do it live.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
I think we're good now. Wait, say testing one more time.
Testing. Hello.
I think we're good.
Okay. Yeah, so I read the first 100 pages of Dune, and it's been so enjoyable, and it feels like more enjoyable to me than Lord of the Rings. And I don't know if that's just because
crazy.
Lord of the Rings kind of sat back for like a month, but it just feels like I enjoy, like the world building is very different than the world building in Lord of the Rings, and I'm just liking it a lot better. And yeah, I don't know. It just is good.
That's
Maybe
wild.
better
So
to me.
wild.
That is wild to
It's
me.
really good.
Because I just finished my actual read of Fellowship of the Ring, and I think it's the greatest book ever written.
Yeah, and I was like 5 stars. Like I love
Yeah,
this.
you were
And now
obsessed.
I was like, should I put it down to 4 stars? Like, did I just get too excited?
No.
But I don't
Maybe
know.
you're just
it's,
too excited about Dune.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
whatever book
it's
you're
like
reading
the
at moment.
time in
Whatever you're
between.
reading, you just love.
Exactly.
Whatever you're
So
reading.
far so good though. So I'm a Dune.
I heard it gets
Fan
boring
now.
later on.
I don't know.
I heard, yeah, Dune apparently gets really weird later on. Mark has told me all about the weirdness of how strange it gets, but
It's better than the movie though.
really,
Already. Yeah.
Wow. 100
And there's like
pages.
I'm finding differences already. I'm like, ooh, I'm so good at this. Like I just
Yeah.
watched these movies. But yeah, my brother and me are reading it, so I'm like chasing up to where he's in the book.
I'm
And
really
we're-
excited to read it. I just don't think I'm gonna like it more than Lord of the Rings because I think the outlook on life is totally different from Lord of the Rings. But I'm very excited to read it. So when we do that one, you're gonna be our host.
Dude, just go right now. Me, my brother, you. We'll do
I'll be
that.
down.
Record it, stockpile it.
Sick.
But let's get into our discussion of Lord of the Rings. So
Welcome.
hold on. Yeah, how do we do this? Welcome to the podcast. Yeah. Welcome to the podcast. I'm John. hold on.
I thought you saw me chewing.
Sorry. Welcome to the podcast. I'm John.
Jen.
Danny.
I'm Lizzie.
And this is the Fellowship of the First Time Readers. Okay, before we even jump into this, I want to know too, because again, I like actually read this. When you're going through Fellowship of the Ring, as we're leaving off into this, because my moment correlates exactly with the first chapter, because I think one of my favorite moments of the entire Fellowship of the Ring was just Boromir's character development. And when you got to this chapter, I was distraught when I was reading this first chapter because it was so impactful for me. So what was your guys' favorite moment in the first Fellowship, in the first 2 books, essentially?
Oh my.
Can you remember?
Dig deep in the memory.
Yeah, I know.
Well, it's kind of nice when we have just this amount of time, whatever it was,
Yeah.
month and a half. It means that when
Settle
we look
down.
back, we've forgotten some of the less important,
Mhm.
and we focus on the key moments. The Mines of Moria definitely stands out. Also, the Shire time.
Mhm.
I could happily go back to the Shire for another full book.
Yeah, agreed.
Because it was just so magical and innocent.
Isn't that
And
The Hobbit?
Yeah, it's like, honestly, kind of.
Just read
but
that.
even, well, yes, I'm excited to go read The Hobbit again. But even just the time in the Shire, like, they just seem so chill and the problems are so small and birthday planning.
Yeah,
and
seriously. It was just like,
just fun.
it was the same thing when we were reading Harry Potter. It was the same thing when you just want stuff like in between some of the action. You just want like them going to classes and then just kind of hanging out. I want more moments at the Shire. I was thinking the same thing. Like even the first chapter was so exciting to me because they were planning a birthday. And I hate birthdays, but it was like so fun. It was like all these little details that were happening that were just chilling. And even the hobbits of how much they want to go back and actually how much they're fighting for the Shire. Frodo in particular, like everything he does seems to be centered around the Shire.
Yeah.
Which is really beautiful. But yeah, it kind of like flavors your reading of this now. Even like Merry and Pippin on their like little chase. They seem like Pippin had that one moment. I think it was Pippin. He's like, why did I even go on this quest? Like, what am I doing here? I'm just like a suitcase or a luggage for everyone.
I did say
I felt so bad for
Yeah,
him.
poor guy.
remember.
What was your favorite part?
Oh, don't ask me.
Or Lizzie, I meant. That's what I meant.
I think when they reunited with Bilbo, that whole like time I really enjoyed, and like him singing the songs. And like
you love the songs.
Yeah, like the whole thing. You made a video about it when we were like, I don't know if I'll live to see like your chapters. That part's like by far my favorite. But yeah, that was like really sweet because that was a little bit of happiness and encouragement like after the first trials that they went through, and then they've all dispersed and it's back into like not hopelessness, but like
it is. It's pretty bleak.
Yeah. So I really like that part.
So let's jump into chapter 1. Let's do a quick summary of chapter 1, which is the departure of Boromir. Anybody have a summary?
I didn't take any notes this time.
All right.
Wow.
I got
I'm
two
ready.
little thingies. Look how sad that is.
Come on.
Boromir's funeral and song. The 3 hunters came up with their plan to go save Merry and Pippin.
Yeah, great. So one of the book's lines, and this keeps popping up, and I want to talk about this for a bit, but it says Aragorn is on top of what's that? What's
Ammon Mule?
Ammon Mule? Yeah.
Is that the king's thing up there?
Like a little lookout. And it says he turned from the north back again to the north, and saw nothing save the distant hills, unless it were far away that he could see a great, unless it were that far away he could see again a great bird like an eagle high in the air, descending slowly in wide circles down toward the earth. It mentions the eagles a few times in this little section, and then it mentions in the Fellowship of the Ring, it mentioned it a few times where there was a fight between 2 eagles. And then later on, it mentions that Legolas sees these eagles.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any symbolism behind these?
I thought that was a Nazgul.
Anything up? Really?
That's kind of what I thought.
You thought what?
It was the Nazgul. But then
right here or later?
Well, at first I thought it was the Nazgul, but later I thought it said something like he hasn't been released yet.
Right, like it's not their time or something.
Yeah.
Maybe it is.
Well, they're not allowed to cross like the river, right? Or not allowed, but like Sauron hasn't let them across the Great River because it's not. Yeah, again, it's like not their time. But is that what he's seeing?
Just an eagle.
I like that the idea that maybe he's just mistaking an eagle for a fell beast or like a Nazgul. I never thought about that.
What is that?
They're like little. They're not like dragons, but they're like dragon-like creatures. You'll see him when you should have watched the movies. You'll see him when you watch the movies. They're like, they're kind of like dragons. That's like my best description for them. I know there's a difference, but I don't really know the difference between the two at the moment.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, but I feel like I've never thought about that in fell beast terms, because it's interesting too when they're on the river to where they're at currently in Fellowship of the Ring. The first thing that they see is he sees 2 eagles fighting each other, and then the next thing is Legolas shoots a fell beast out of the sky. We learn that it was a fell beast in these chapters, most likely. So I'm like, maybe it actually was.
That.
Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah, that is
fresh
wild.
on my mind.
Yeah. Did you just go straight from the end of book 1?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. Like I finished the end of book 1.
Yeah, I didn't reread anything.
A few days ago. Would there be any like other just weird symbolism for that? I keep thinking it's symbolism for Aragorn maybe and his kingdom over Gondor. Like I was thinking Aragorn and Boromir to some extent. Like Aragorn, they weren't really fighting, but when they were on the river, it's like these 2 eagles, they're flying in Gondor, and it's like these 2 eagles are fighting, not like jockeying for power, because really Aragorn has the real power. And then all of a sudden now he's at the top of this, Boromir's about to die, and he sees just this solitary eagle flying around. And then he sees it again later when they're going through Rohan, which is interesting. I just don't know.
Maybe I don't want that to be the symbolism because I don't like the Eagles so much right now.
Why?
They just seem a little arrogant.
Yeah.
I don't know why. They're just kind of like, yeah, keep us out of your business. We'll step in a little bit here and there. Fine, we'll fly someone around, but don't tell us your story.
Yeah.
So I think I just don't have the best view of them. But maybe that'll change.
Your story.
Like it kind of feels like that. Even with Gandalf, they're kind of like, yeah, we'll take you that far, whatever. But now they're just flying around to take a peek at things. Feels a little weird.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they can totally be trusted or if they even are eagles or just a smaller bird that's
I
closer.
missed something.
Well, you didn't miss much. It's like pretty small.
Yeah, it's a
line,
small, tiny
you know?
detail that I'm obsessing over.
Okay, good.
That's all I'm doing now.
Yeah, so don't worry. Just small
This is what we
things.
have to deal with.
Yeah, I know you guys are.
This is what I
Yeah. Oh, the book said this weird word "and" in this little section.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I actually
Was it
did.
semi-
I was
Colon?
merging
Yeah.
while
Period.
listening, so I
Yep.
did not hear that.
What did you guys think about the whole vibe of this chapter? What did you think about Boromir's passing? Let's just talk about the generals of this chapter.
Oh, sad.
Yeah.
It was much. Well, between this and the chapter with Merry and Pippin, it was like a double whammy of hearing the story of Boromir's death and kind of seeing. I was like, oh man, so sad. But the funeral song I thought was excellent.
Yeah.
It was like somber and kind of a warrior thing, and they honored him. And I love that he was honest in his death.
Yeah.
And then, if I remember correctly, I'll have to see my note. Aragorn didn't tell them that.
He takes it to he's gonna take
like
it to his
for
grave,
a long,
which is
long
I
time
think is
at
great.
least. Yeah,
I was thinking
which is
about
very
that all
noble.
today actually.
But it's like kind of a funny
He
thing.
didn't tell. He
Like,
didn't tell him that
'cause-
he felt bad for letting.
Well,
with
because Boromir
trying
was
to
kind of
take the ring.
apologizing. Yeah, like saying like I couldn't be trusted. I tried to take the ring, but then Aragorn didn't tell Gimli and Legolas when they got there, which is kind of noble.
Yeah.
And it's like he was trusting Boromir's deeper character
Yeah.
and knew that was just a momentary thing that the ring made him do. And then Aragorn was willing to look past that and didn't judge him for it.
Yeah.
And then even protected him, protected his legacy, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
And in these chapters, Aragorn, he keeps getting more complex. Like, I kind of like in the movies where he's just the man at all times.
Yeah.
But here there are moments where I'm like, he's still figuring it out.
Yes.
He doesn't know when to be like, yeah, I'm king, what up? Or when to kind of be chill, and he's doubting his decisions.
Yeah.
So that's a new dynamic.
I agree. Reading Fellowship, I think part of it too was he wasn't necessarily the outright leader. Like I had like a little discussion or like trying to figure out whether he was the outright leader or not. This is what Wes does too, by the way. He rips the tiniest piece off of his bear and wants to play tug of war with it.
Oh.
That's so funny.
And like wants to play with that. So like I'll throw this little tiny piece of those like his stuffed animal that he's ripped off for hours and he would love it. But I kept thinking that Aragorn wasn't necessarily the outright leader. I think he was. He was like co-leading with Gandalf almost. And then all of a sudden he's thrust into this role. I think he adopts it pretty well. Like there's a moment when like I just made a full essay that everyone hated about Aragorn's being fully erect when he's watching the Argonaut.
I
So
saw
funny.
that thumbnail and I
I'd be
didn't
like,
watch. I was like, no.
That's probably why
That's
I
so funny.
But he goes through this and I'm like, this is a
wise.
kingly moment for him, but I still didn't love him as a character. And this chapter, I think, was the moment that I actually really fell in love with him as a character because he's so self-doubting. He doesn't know what to do. And he's so nervous. He's like all in the air with everything getting pulled in every different direction. And then he just makes a decision and he just keeps going and he stays true to this decision that he's making. At the moment, I'm like, I think he's still wrestling whether this is the right decision or not, but he's sticking with it. And I'm like, that is the sign of like almost like a man, of like a true king. Even if it's might not the perfect decision, you stick with it and you see it through to the end. And I'm like, he's making decisions, which is something that I really love, that he's not frozen in indecision right now. Like he's trying to figure it out, trying to figure out these riddles that they're talking about. But this was, and then again, he sees, we'll talk about that later, but like Éomer in the next chapter. And it's like when he starts speaking, it's like Éomer becomes shorter and Aragorn becomes like taller. It's like a cool description. Yes.
Nice. We got her.
But I think this was the chapter that I started to really respect Aragorn. Even though I still love this dynamic that he doesn't have everything figured out.
Yeah.
He's
me
like
too.
very confused. I think it's a cool dynamic.
And he's so honest about it too.
Mhm.
And he trusts Legolas and Gimli to help him. And so there's just a lot of that. It seems like a better brotherhood, you know?
Yeah, agreed.
I think to me, he seemed like second in command only because he was the closest with Gandalf. So he was like in the same boat as the rest of the fellowship, but I was always like, okay, maybe he knows a little bit more, or like maybe they've seen something together, worked on this in the past.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, okay, he's second in command. But they're definitely like the tension of Boromir and Aragorn was like, I think it could go either way. Especially I was like trying to imagine if Boromir ran into Eomer, and I was like, what would that have been like? Like would they just all like ride together and just be like, okay, that's it?
Because they were buddies.
Yeah.
And I mean, we'll talk about that later, but Rohan has learned to not be dealing horses to
Shadowfell.
Yeah, which we'll talk about that in a bit. But because with one of my favorite moments of Aragorn was what you mentioned too, Danny, in that he didn't tell Gimli and Legolas about like Boromir's fall, essentially. Like they still knew that he kind of went after Frodo, but not like to that extent. He really wants to play with you. But I thought that was a really respectful moment. And then everything with Boromir, like I thought we weren't going to see the actual fighting of Boromir, which I thought was going to be a really good writing implement. But I like that we saw it through Merry and Pippin's perspective. But I like the idea that we're like with Aragorn and all of a sudden he blows his horn. And then you get there and he already has arrows in his chest and he's already like on the verge of death. That was gutting to me. Like that you didn't get to see that, but I thought that was brilliant at the same time.
And he killed like 20 orcs.
Yeah.
Wow. And then later in the next chapter, you realize that Merry was there cutting guys' arms off. He was cutting orcs' arms legit. Off. I'm like, that guy is so cool. So great.
Aragorn definitely like preserves the like Boromir's sanctity and like gives him a lot of grace, which I think is good for like the trust going forward. Because I almost feel like with the rest of the trio at this point start to like doubt themselves, like, ooh, Boromir went down. Like, is it gonna get me?
That's a great point. That's a really great point. They feel less susceptible to temptation than Boromir does. Boromir seems like the weakest of them. But I would say that's a great idea for Aragorn. Maybe he sees that weakness in himself.
Is that because he's a man?
Yeah, probably.
That's what they all say, right?
Men are weak.
Scene where Gimli like just tries to hack it with his axe. That's not in the book, right?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So I don't know. Maybe Gimli's not gonna fall, and that was why the movie was like, get that out of the way right away.
Gimli would never fall.
Yeah, right. Yeah. He seems so.
I don't think
noble.
Legolas would either.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Because he's so
honestly
elf and special, and like I don't know.
You took the words out of my mouth because I think the next person that would fall is Aragorn, probably.
Yeah.
I think he's weirdly the next person that's most susceptible to it. Merry and Pippin seem like they don't care about it. Frodo, obviously, because he's the ring bearer. But Aragorn seems... That's probably part of the reason why I love him too much. He's like a flawed leader. He seems like he'd be the next one to go. But he's resisting temptation so well to the point that he wouldn't at the same time.
Well, that's where in the movie he had his test right at this scene.
Mm-hmm.
But did that happen in the book? Like I can't keep.
Oh, so true. No, that didn't.
So
because he never interacted with Frodo, right? Because in the movies he has that scene, and you're right. He passes the test. He closes his hand, and Frodo's kind of like, "Well, take it," which also now compared to the book feels a little silly because it's like Frodo doesn't understand his quest, but he had already in movie and book offered it to Galadriel, so. It also feels like, wait, didn't you learn your lesson with Galadriel? You don't offer this to other people, at least in the movie. So I'm glad he didn't offer it to Aragorn, but then he didn't interact with Aragorn. It was just kind of gone. And Boromir had to catch Aragorn up on what happened. I also thought Boromir, he said, farewell, Aragorn, go to Minas Tirith and save my people. And I thought, how about our people, Boromir? I thought he was going to like, kind of create that bond in that moment. And I was waiting for him to call him king.
Yeah,
or like some
brother,
kind of something.
Captain, my king.
Yeah, and then he kind of like didn't say
great,
it. I was
but
like,
at the same time, I did love this movie death because he still dies with dignity and hope in his heart. And I thought that was the most important thing for Boromir. And like, I think the movie writing was brilliant in that scene, but I also think the book writing was obviously equally as brilliant because in that moment he's like telling Boromir he can rest in peace. And I think that was huge. That's why Aragorn jumped up so high in my mind because he's giving Boromir what he needs and he's like fulfilling promises to Boromir and to the kingdom of men that Boromir needed to see. Even though Boromir didn't necessarily love Aragorn as the leader, really.
Be at peace. Minas Tirith shall not fall.
Yeah.
And then he smiled. Like it was like that's what he needed. He's like, all right, I don't need to hold on anymore. I've told my story. Aragorn's got this.
Yeah. I loved it. It was such a good moment. Aragorn always does shout Elendil though, everywhere he goes. At first, I was talking to people in our Discord today, and at first, I thought, because he shouted it, I think maybe not first, but he shouted it in the Mines of Moria when he's about to jump in with Gandalf, who's fighting the Balrog. And I don't know why, but I thought that was Gandalf's name, like his like elven name or like another name, but it's not.
Yeah, is it his sword?
Yeah.
No, Elendil is his ancestor.
Oh,
So Elendil is the
his-
father of Isildur, I think.
Right. Okay, that
I might
makes
be
sense.
totally wrong on that, but it's
No.
his
That,
ancestor
okay,
in some
right,
sense.
right.
So people were saying that he does that in order to like, it's like prayer almost, like calling down like your ancestors.
Is that
like,
actually
power.
like powerful?
I don't know. I don't think
Didn't
so.
the elf names do that?
Tom Bombadil's name does that. Do the elven names do that?
Didn't they call on some elf name when they like cross the river? Am I making that up? I thought they did.
Which river?
You're
in
saying when
Lothlorien?
Frodo was
Yeah.
being carried by
Yeah.
what was
The man.
Asphaleth over the river. no laughing.
I can't contribute.
Yeah, I thought they at some point they did that with the elf names too, and it was like
I thought
actually
it was like a
powerful.
song to calm the river
Oh,
or two.
Hmm.
Or
check the chat.
Yeah, I know. Give us some answers, people. Elbereth.
Elbereth.
And she's
you.
a Vala, which I don't know what that means. But Gandalf's actual name is Mithrandir. That's his elven name, I think.
Oh yeah, I've heard
So
that.
I always thought I thought it
And
was
Rings of
Elendil for a second,
Power.
and it's not.
I think so. I think it comes up in there
What?
in Rings of Power.
Oh yeah, I think it
I
does.
think it does.
Yeah.
Did you watch Rings of Power?
Jen's a big Rings of Power fan.
I like watching things.
They're just great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, Boromir's passing was tough in this whole section. I thought it was really well written.
Mhm.
What else did you guys have in this chapter? I have one more question, but what else do you have?
I just was curious about some of the magic, like if the horn did anything more, because Aragorn heard it, and we find out later from Merry and Pippin that the orcs kind of like got nervous, maybe even backed away for a second, but then they realized no one else was coming, so then they came back in. But then I thought, did the horn scare them because of backup, or is there something deeper about the horn's power to like increase fear?
Because one big thing, I was thinking about that too, and I was even thinking about that with the names, because Lizzie was kind of mentioning that. Is there magic? Like the whole magic system is, and everyone talks about this as being a soft magic system, but it just leaves ambiguity there to the point where I like don't want to figure it out, but I want to know some of these details.
Yeah.
So that fact always, the names fact is interesting. Like, is he actually calling down with some kind of power his ancestors? Is he receiving power in this moment where he like puts up his sword and then like, a lightning bolt hits it and he's like, power? Or is it just like it hypes him up? And the same thing I thought was true for what you're saying, this horn, because I think it was interesting. The detail for the horn is that it's cloven in two after he dies.
Right.
So did the orcs know that this thing has power, and did they had to have cloven it in two?
I
don't know
actually
anybody
thought
else.
of it breaking itself
Ooh.
because it was so connected to Boromir when he died.
Dang.
I thought of it as
I love that.
Yeah,
well,
great.
again, I don't know much about this, but I just thought of it more like it was connected to him on some deeper level through some kind of magic, and that's what made it so that this is his horn. So yeah, I think it was just like the horn of Boromir. Like this isn't the horn of Gondor. This is, like I don't know if that's its official name, but that was kind of my own little headcanon. Because I'm just thinking the orcs didn't even kill him. They ran off so fast.
Yeah.
They just left him by a tree. So they came over just to like break a horn in half. It seems
excessive.
But they didn't even finish the job they started. Or maybe they're just evil and they wanted him to be in pain, and that was part of their thing, because they alluded to that in the next chapter or two chapters, where like orcs kill people properly takes a long time. I was like, ooh, sounds like sacrifice. But either way, I thought, I don't think they broke the horn. I think that just happened. its final moments.
I love that. The idea that it's so connected with him that as soon as Boromir dies, the thing, or like he's slain, the thing just gets cloven in two because, yeah, it has a little deep connection. I love that. I even love the idea that of like the more natural thing that like orcs like clove this thing in two. I even kind of like that idea too because they even realize this thing has power.
They're like, we don't have to kill him; he's done. But
yeah,
this
seriously.
horn, we don't want to face this thing again.
Yeah, it's cool. Makes me curious if we're gonna hear this again. Like if Gondor is actually gonna have a bunch of these, and I'm curious what the kingdom of Gondor is gonna look like. I think that's one of the things I'm most curious about. Like I'm excited that we get to Rohan too. Like we're gonna see them in a bit, I'm sure, but I'm curious about Gondor. Is Aragorn making the right decision? We say this in hindsight. We know the
It's
movies,
like,
except
what
for
choice
Jan.
did
Right,
you
right.
Movies.
Yeah, how much of this do you remember?
I feel like his tracking abilities were fantastic in this chapter
Yeah.
too, where he's
So
just like
true.
laying on the ground
Yeah.
listening to it. That was great.
Because in the movies, I thought they were like a little over exaggerated, but they're not. Like when he's like, in the movies, when he's like, a hobbit lay here and the
Yeah.
other here. I'm like, come on, he doesn't really do that.
Yeah.
In the books, he's like,
He
fully
legit
like that.
does, yeah.
He's like, oh, a hobbit ran off course here.
But it took them like hours of searching.
Yeah.
And then in the movie, he is
Yeah,
just like
true.
running around following the steps. So he's a little slower, but I don't think it's less impressive.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, his tracking skills were elite here. And then even on top of like his tracking skills, I think him and the decisions that he's making here are just really fascinating. Because I like the idea that he still has so much self-doubt, but he's just going to see this out. Like even when they meet the riders of Rohan and they're on this, like they pursue these orcs for what, like 4 days until they see the riders of Rohan, or 3 days.
Crazy.
That's like a brutal track. And every single time they're about to go to sleep, he's like, I love that one moment. We'll talk about this in the next chapter a little bit too. When he's debating between sleeping and between pursuing them.
Oh, yeah.
And then when they wake up, they realize they've like lost them.
Yeah.
And they don't know where they
So
are
he's like,
anymore. So he's like,
I think I made the wrong decision.
Yeah. And he keeps talking
Oh,
about
yeah.
that. And Gimli's like, we need to solve this riddle. And the riddle is always like, what's the next thing that they need to do? I just thought, I think it's such good character building for him. Hey, Daniel Wilson, £5 donation.
A Brit.
Have we ever watched the BBC interview with J.R.R. Tolkien? Haven't.
No, but I think we need to.
That's on the list.
Add it to the list, the live watch. That
First
sounds
time watch.
awesome.
Yeah, seriously, I want to check that out.
I'm curious because I haven't watched anything with him or seen any bonus stuff, but I am curious like his stuff, how he would talk about the books afterwards or during. I don't know when the interview is from, but
that makes me, I'm curious what he would, like everyone talks about him being like a curmudgeon and how he wouldn't like the movies and everything like that. I don't know if he would necessarily would, but I'd be very curious to see what his take on some of this kind of stuff is. But yeah, anything else in this chapter before we go to chapter 2?
of course.
Good.
Just one thing I thought was funny. Aragorn, of course, he's amazing. So they get down to the river and Aragorn's like looking for clues. And he's like, we're looking at the dirt and trying to find things.
Yeah.
And then Gimli's like, well, what about their bags are missing?
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of like, I love this. The perfect balance that Aragorn's like on the ground sniffing rocks and Gimli's like, their bags aren't here and one of the boats is gone. So
because Aragorn has the one moment where he's like, a hobbit went into the water right here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, how the heck does he know that?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Gimli's like, oh, nope, missing a bag. They don't have, one of the boats is gone. It's so good. Gimli is one of my favorites. I love him so much.
So I did like that they put all that together. I guess I was kind of wondering like what moment the fellowship broke. And this kind of felt like that moment, even though I guess it broke as soon as Frodo left at the end of the first. But that's what I love about this chapter. It was such a beautiful continuation.
Yeah.
It just was seamless, which I loved. Like it really feels like you could just keep reading.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was it.
And it's something too with the decision that Aragorn makes. I'm going to keep harping on this decision because I think it's such good writing. Because I think one of the most important chapters for Harry Potter too, when we were talking about that, was when they come back from Gringotts. No, they come back from Malfoy Manor, and they're at Shell Cottage. And remember, like Harry has to make a decision if it's Horcrux or Hallows. And then he makes the decision, and he still doubts himself like crazy, but he has conviction over this decision, and that's like the moment he becomes a man. I felt similar to this with Aragorn, and that he has to make a decision right here between Frodo, between pursuing them, between Merry and Pippin, and like maybe he could have gotten Frodo to Mordor faster, but I think he's making the right decision here and going after Merry and Pippin, and I love his reasoning behind it and how he convinces Legolas, and Gimli to go after him too. It's like, we cannot leave them. What does he say in the end of this? He's like, we cannot leave them to death and torture or something like that. I just thought it was so good, and he makes this decision and he just follows it, and he just keeps doing this, and I'm like, it's someone I want to lead or I would follow. Like, this is a good leader.
Yeah, we cannot forsake our companions while we have strength left. And I love just the inspiring departure. Like, I feel like he's just pumping him up a little bit.
Yeah, honestly,
pumping me up.
Yeah.
With hope or without hope, we will follow the trail of our enemies, and woe to them if we prove the swifter. We will make such a chase as shall be accounted and a marvel among the three kindreds, elves, dwarves, and men.
And it's funny because he's saying that. Meanwhile, there's more than 200 orcs and Uruk-hai all running, and if they got accosted, they would have gotten slaughtered.
Which is what Éomer kind of said. He's like, what would you have done if you caught them? Like, you three.
It was a great moment. All right, let's go on to chapter 2, the Riders of Rohan. John, what are your thoughts on this chapter? This was fantastic chapter. Love this one. Just general thoughts so far. Jen, you're allowed to fade away.
Yeah, fade away if you must.
Feel free. Put a pillow on your head.
The hunt for orcs and Merry and Pippin met Riders of Rohan. Tension, but then trust. They got horses, found orcs dead. They lost their horses, weird old man, and then they go into Fangorn.
Weird old man.
That
was
so many
scary.
things.
Yeah.
That like scared me so bad. For
Oh my
no
god,
reason.
I don't like this at all.
Yeah.
I don't remember this chapter.
Well, again, that was a brief moment.
Yeah.
Just an old man pops out there like, what's going on? All right, I guess we're just going to go back to sleep.
Yeah.
But
It
they're
felt
like,
like it was
no,
just a
come
quick
sit
moment.
down.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, no,
that's a
you're
terrible
in a field.
idea.
There's
And
no one
everyone's like,
here.
come warm yourself by the fire. And I'm like,
That
no,
threw me
wrong
off. I was like,
choice.
what is he saying?
Take one of those
so
logs.
friendly.
I kind
Throw
of like
it
the
at him.
self-confidence. He's like, okay, there's an old man. Even if he's a wizard, Aragorn's like, I could take him. He's
Yeah.
like, come warm yourself by the fire.
Yep.
Middle of nowhere.
Very trusting.
Terrifying. So
Hmm.
was that Saruman? Do we think it was?
Yeah. No, I think that was Gandalf.
Oh, really?
I mean, yeah, that's like,
But why would
I
he
think
just
that was
leave
Gandalf.
right away, though?
it's a great question.
And
I don't
why
know.
take the horses?
Because I think what he's doing is he's maybe drawing them into the woods. I don't know. Maybe there's like some purpose that they have in the woods that they need to go there for some reason.
Because
I don't
the
know.
hobbits are in the woods.
Yeah, maybe.
I feel like
It's a
I don't
great
know.
question. I don't know. I think the whole time I was reading this chapter, I was just thinking too how fun this would be if you had never known the movies, you didn't know anything that was coming after this. Because
Yep.
at this
Yeah.
point, I don't know if Merry and Pippin are alive, and all the
Yep.
indications that we are getting are so subtext. It's like such perfect writing, and that like all of a sudden they're pursuing them, they hear them, they see tracks, then they lose the tracks, and they wake up in the morning, and you're like, did they make the right decision? And then Aragorn can't hear anything, Legolas can't see anything, and in my head I'm going, okay, either they're long gone, or maybe the orc are all slaughtered or something like that. If you're reading for this for the first time, I'm like, the tension that
Yeah.
he builds in this chapter with whether or not they're alive or dead is just top tier. It's so
Yeah,
good.
truly.
And then especially at the ending, because you see this wizard and you're like, oh, he's back in the Fangorn?
Yeah.
What? What is going on here?
Right.
It was so good. Oh gosh, so good. But this is one of the first lines that I have in this chapter that I wrote down. It says, I think that the enemy brought his own enemy with him, answered Aragorn. These are northern orcs from far away. Among them, slain, are none of the great orcs with the strange badges. There was a quarrel, I guess. It is no uncommon thing with these foul folk. Maybe there was some dispute about the road. And one of my questions was, what is the quarrel about? We learn what the quarrel was about next chapter. But yeah, the whole intensity to this. There was one other thing that I wanted to talk about, which kind of correlates with the prior chapter. I have a lot to talk about in this one, but they keep mentioning, so in the song that they were singing for Boromir, they mentioned the east, south, and North Wind. And Gimli at the end of the song says, "You left me the West Wind." And then all of a sudden they make mention of the West Wind being like forsaken at Gondor. Like the West Wind doesn't pop up in Gondor. And what is
Wow, I
that?
totally missed that.
It's
Yeah,
like
I
a
have
weird
no
section.
idea.
Here, I gotta cut this section in audio when I fix this, but
You left the east wind to me, said Gimli, but I will say naught of it.
let me try to find it.
That is as it should be, said Aragorn. In Minas Tirith they endure
Yeah.
the east wind, but they do not ask it for tidings. But now Boromir has taken his road, and we must make haste to choose our own.
What does that
mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? It's so bizarre.
That is so bizarre.
And
You
guys were in book club when we were talking about, this is why it reminded me of this too. But you guys were in book club when we were talking about Till We Have Faces by Lewis. And in that section, when it's like a Cupid and Psyche retelling, and in that section, when she gets tied up, the West Wind is like a deity. Like she feels the West Wind blow on her face, and the West Wind like takes some kind of form. And it's like a weird, fascinating thing. And that's the first time I've ever heard of that before. It was like the West Wind is actually taking kind of form. And then it comes up again in this, and I'm like, oh, a little connection with the Inklings. Maybe they like plan this, but I don't know what it is in their head or in their mind. Or even just literally in this story, if it's it's probably like actually a West Wind. I'm like, or maybe I'm just reading too far into this, but I feel like there has to be some kind of symbolism behind this too. Yeah, there's always something there.
I have no idea.
Well, I love just even that with the song. Like it was a known song, and they made up plenty of the lyrics because they're talking about the waterfall he's going over and Boromir and everything. But that it's like a kind of a structure of a chant or a song that you would sing, maybe even specifically for a funeral. They endure the east wind, but they do not ask for its tidings.
Yeah.
Like maybe they're just directionally in Minas Tirith, there is not happy tidings from the east because that like
that's where Mordor is.
Yeah. And maybe Aragorn's just making a little play on words here.
Yeah. But
that is fascinating.
I know. It was just like a random thing that I was like, that seems weird. Let me think about that.
Isengard is in the east too. Where's Isengard?
Well, now it's kind of west of them because they're doing a little.
You do a little loop. Did you look at the interactive map?
Actually, I don't know which way they turned.
I haven't rechecked.
But that threw me off because I'm like, wait, they're traveling west. I'm like, that seems like the wrong way. And it kind of is because the orcs came out to get them, grabbed Merry and Pippin, and then kind of are going northwest back to Isengard.
Yeah.
So then it feels counterintuitive because they're kind of going back the direction of like Moria, and then Fangorn's up there. But I guess I'd have to pull up that little map from where we saw online. But
interactive map of Middle Earth.
Look how useless
because then it actually
these
shows
maps
the
are,
path. But
like that's
useless.
Yeah, that's so tiny.
Yeah.
Because Anduin is kind of like it cuts the land in half almost. So they were going down, and then they got to Emyn Muil.
Here we go.
Paths.
And then they'd be going
Aragorn.
west to Fangorn or to Isengard, but they went towards the forest to kind of.
So they do this. So they go. This is where they stop, and they go over Emyn Muil. Come on. Come on.
See, it's a little buggy.
Whoa,
I know.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
so they.
shit,
This is where they're running, I guess. Why is this thing all like that? And so Isengard
this
is
is their run?
east. Yeah, this is their run. And then this is where they see the little wizard, I'm sure. Which we don't know yet. And then all of a sudden they're supposed to go down there. And like, this is kind of cheating, but we still know the movie, so we know they're all going to do all this kind of stuff.
So where's Rohan? Oh,
Edoras, and then this is Helm's Deep, and this is Isengard right here. Which I always thought Isengard was a much farther march to Helm's Deep, but it's not.
Right. It seems kind of close.
few
It's
days,
like
yeah.
scary close.
To Isengard.
What do you guys have in this chapter?
I didn't take any notes this time.
You don't have
I
any notes
was
in this
just
chapter?
reading. I like underlined
Just
stuff,
reading
but
for
I didn't.
enjoyment.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
didn't
blame
take notes. That's what I mean. I feel like this is just reading like a book so easily now, and the first book wasn't doing that so much.
Yeah, I'm actually with you.
But okay, allow me to speak about Dune for another second.
Yeah,
Like,
nice.
Dune to me is like this one. I know, like, I'm not getting stuff, and I know there's so much that I have to reread and get like the lore for. But it's built like backwards, where I expect to have
Yeah.
a reread. But Dune, I feel like it's building up more like bottom to top, where like I
Oh.
can understand it.
Like you're not missing
Immediately,
things.
yeah.
You feel like you're grasping
like as long as I
everything in it.
pay attention, I'm already like, oh, they just mentioned that.
Yeah.
All right, that's interesting.
So I
Because-
kind of like that because I don't feel lost. I feel like I
Yeah.
have the direction of where we're
Yeah,
going.
that's kind of true. As far as like storytelling, it is good. At the same point, I'm liking this too because it just feels like the world is huge. And like the
Mhm,
histories of
mhm.
Middle Earth that he wrote.
Yeah.
Like I get excited about it because like he mentions a character and that character has a whole life and they're living and breathing. The whole world feels so much more full to me.
But you haven't read Dune.
But I haven't no. I'm saying in this, in Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
It feels so much more full to me because like I was talking about this and like when we meet Gildor in the first book, I feel like it was like a happenstance and like he already had a full life and like I feel like somewhere Tolkien wrote about Gildor because you feel like he had some kind of history, he had some kind of battles, like he had some kind of lore behind him and we just didn't know that yet.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it feels like I'm just like plucked into Middle Earth and walking with the hobbits and they're like learning about all this stuff with me. So Wes just ripped one.
Nice, Wes.
So I feel like I'm like, it's a more immersive world to me. Like there's more out there. Like I feel like even though it's a bit more intimidating to get into this, I still like it a bit more. But I haven't read Dune, so maybe when I read Dune, I'll change my tune.
I do like
Ryan.
that because he gives random names and details sometimes, you don't know when the detail is going to matter and when it won't.
Yeah.
And then that meant that the orc chapter, even with movie knowledge, I still was like, wait, these orcs, are we about to have a consistent character of an orc from
yeah,
book
like
to
a
book?
character.
Like I literally, I'm like, I think there's a nemesis here, you know,
Yeah.
like, and then you just don't know because you're getting a lot more
Yeah.
background than you expect, and then all of a sudden, death. So it does keep you guessing because just because you're learning about a character doesn't mean they're going to stick around. So it keeps you guessing. So this is where they mention that Legolas sees the eagle, and he's very high, seems to be flying now away from this land
Yeah.
and back north. And I didn't think of any symbolism, but I was just more wondering, are we going to find out what he was doing? He was coming down from the north to do a thing. Now he's going back. What was
Yeah.
that thing?
Yep.
Why?
Maybe they're like scouting. He's coming down from the north and then he's going back up north. Maybe they're just scouting Rohan or they're scouting Mordor or something like that. I don't think they'd be able to see that far.
The
That's the
eagle.
thing. Yeah. I don't know.
Are they really don't have sides though? They don't.
They're too
I don't
proud.
remember much except they were fairly involved in The Hobbit. But it just felt like the way Gandalf talked about the eagles, they were kind of like, all right, fine. I guess we're going that way. We could drop you off. Like, all right. You know, it just felt a little like they're casual about it, but I don't remember much more than that. But I accidentally don't love them that much.
Accidentally.
It was interesting too, because we got a little bit of a deeper dive on Gandalf coming to Rohan for a little bit.
Right.
Like he stole Shadowfax.
But he
rather-
only needed Shadowfax because the eagles wouldn't take him any farther.
Exactly, for
so
sure.
it's like this kind of like,
for sure.
But it's stole
But then they like
Yeah.
resented him for it.
And then
The best source.
he's like not welcome anymore in Rohan. And that part of me was like, when I was going through the Council of Elrond, like looking at his journey was insane. Because he comes off Orthanc, or he goes all the way down from Hobbiton to Orthanc, and then all of a sudden dropped off in Rohan. Or no, he goes all the way down to Minas Tirith from Hobbiton.
oh yeah, right.
Goes all the way back up to the Hobbiton, and then goes. Radagast stops him. He goes all the way back down to Isengard. Gets dropped off in Rohan, rides Shadowfax all the way up to Weathertop, and then to Rivendell, and he gets where he sees it's like his
Well-
journey is nuts.
Now I'm so curious what the eagle was doing. If the eagles
I
live
know.
north,
If they
why
live
was it going from
north-
Isengard
Yeah,
out
that's a
to
great
Rohan,
question.
dropping him off in Edoras? That's kind of like
It's south.
southeast. So then
Yeah.
I feel like the eagles are doing all these things, and I just want to speculate what they're up to.
Yeah, they're plotting and
Um,
planning. Those little buggers.
So I also think that Legolas can see 12 leagues. So Way to go,
yeah.
How much is
Eagle
a
Eyes
league?
guy.
Yeah, what is a league?
I was too lazy to Google that, even though it mentioned it a
I
bunch
was
of times.
I'll look it up.
Googling something else, but no, it wasn't. Was it leagues?
Holy
Yeah, like a league is 3
smokes.
miles. I think I looked that up.
3 miles?
So, but then 12 leagues is 36
You
miles.
see 36 miles.
That's crazy.
Isn't that cute?
Like, wait, but he saw an eagle from that far. Wait, what does it say?
What's
Many
a
things. It's
fathom?
great company on foot, but I cannot say more, nor see what kind of folk they may be. They are
Really?
many leagues away, 12, I guess, but the flatness of the plain is hard to measure. So, because he's saying
Oh my gosh, ranging from 2.4
there is
to
something
4.6.
moving over the plain. So he sees something moving out over a plain, and he thinks, oh, that's probably like 36 miles away.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's hard to tell because it's a plain, but that's.
And then there's one section where he's like, "Don't ask me
crazy.
if there's any hobbits in the mix." He's like, "I can't pick him out right now."
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you
yeah.
could pick him out if they were sitting there. Like, what?
the-
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that gives some perspective. I'm just thinking of, like, when you're up on a mountain, I'm thinking in places you can see far and whatever, but like
It's-
36 miles.
Yeah, there's no
My
distinction
goodness.
at that
like
point.
looking
It's
at the city from
Yeah.
when you're hiking, I'm like, that's farther than any of the views that I'm picturing right now. So to be able to see anything detailed is insane. That's awesome.
Mm.
But I've been loving some of the elf lore in these chapters.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, like what they can do, even how he sleeps is so funny.
Yeah,
to me.
what?
Well, at first I'm
doesn't
like, he
sleep.
doesn't.
He's
and
like
then
a
his eyes are
dolphin.
open. But
That's
that
what I kept
it's so
He said he's a
crazy.
dolphin.
Yeah.
That honestly
They're like half
tracks.
his brain's awake. Just laying there, like, what is it, hands folded or
yeah.
something? Like,
Well, there's a hilarious moment too where they like come on green Earth, and then Legolas just takes like a whiff of it, and he's like,
I'm
"Mm,
refreshed.
that's as good as sleep."
Yeah.
And I'm sure Gimli and
Yeah.
Aragorn are like, "What?
Like, what
Yeah.
in the world?
Are
Like,
you
how do you
kidding
even
me?
relate to someone like that?
I know, yeah.
It's like tough to be friends. But then I like it's such a funny detail of an elf that I just never
Yeah.
have thought about, where they were saying dreams are very similar to reality
Mhm.
and memories are kind of like perfect. Like you can relive memories as if you're experiencing them again. Like time doesn't mean as much. So I guess that's like a cool way that would make anyone ethereal. You're
Yeah.
a little like spacey if
Yeah.
you're just like hanging out in your memories for a little bit, as if you're like replaying it in real time.
Yeah, seriously.
And Legolas just seems so content.
I
He's
know,
like, sure,
yeah,
I'll just
yeah.
hang out
Skipping
then.
He's just-
around.
He like stares off into the sky.
Yeah, he is so content. He's just like, yeah, he's hilarious. I think it's weird too because in the movie, Gimli is more of like the comedic relief. Here, Legolas is
sure.
absolutely the comedic relief.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like you're like, this dude is not from
No,
Middle
he's
Earth.
not.
He's from another Earth. It's so funny.
I thought it was funny. They're tracking, they're looking for hobbit footprints. Where was this? Oh, Legolas says, yes, they're quite plain. A hobbit's footprints. Pippin's, I think. He is smaller than the other. And look at this. I said, smaller than the other? Does he not know Mary's name?
Yeah.
And then I was like, I think he just means the
I thought
other
the
hobbit.
same thing,
But
yeah.
also, they haven't been traveling that long.
He's
And
a
if
little
it was-
brain fart. He's like,
yeah,
crap, what's
if
that
it was
name? What's
ever a
that
name
hobbit's
not
name?
to know,
That's like the movie theory that Frodo doesn't really know Legolas'
Right.
name.
Mhm.
Aragorn only knows one of the hobbits' names. Mary and crap. What was that other one we have to save?
Yeah, what's that
Who are we
guy?
out here saving? And we'll talk about Pippin's bravery too, but he was incredible in the next chapter.
But the amount of running they're doing is
I
insane.
know, yeah.
And Gimli, way to go.
I know,
Keeping
seriously,
up.
I love it. He's like dwarves tire, but not as much as orcs. He's like, I'm ready to go. We're endurance athletes here.
And
Crazy.
then there's like the weighing on their heart, like the whole atmosphere of the place has changed too,
Yeah.
and they're like slowing
Mm.
down.
Yeah, seriously.
And did they mention
Okay.
later that they felt like that weight was not like it was supernatural? It was
Yeah.
abnormal. It
Seems
was
like
like
Saruman. did
Saruman
that.
is kind of
Yeah.
sending negative vibes their
Yeah.
way, hitting them with
It seems like
gloom.
he's poisoning the land to some extent, which
Mm.
Isn't that like to shade the orcs though, or did I make that up?
Ooh,
So that they
Oh
could
man,
be running.
great thought.
Because it's like the moon and the stars are like weak,
yeah.
Right.
and then later the orcs are like, "We're gonna run during the day? Are you kidding
Mm.
me?" And then they were like, "Yes, Sauron's like I don't know.
Wow. Yeah.
I
Totally
think
missed that.
I think I got
That's awesome.
vibes. I think that was part of it. Maybe it's like especially potent now to give him like shade. But Uruk-hai don't need the shade,
Which is crazy.
which is nuts.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the land already seems poisoned. Like when Éomer is talking about it, he's like, Théoden is like, he's almost out of his mind now. He mentioned something that was like a hint I think we're gonna get for Grima Wormtongue. He said like something like the Council of the King, or like the words that the people who are giving words to the king are
Mhm.
poisoned or something like that. He didn't say that exact word. But it feels like Saruman to me has been slowly poisoning this land as soon as he realized he wanted power. And so he's been
Yeah.
like, yeah. I think it even worked with Gandalf too, because Gandalf thought that they were selling horses, and there was all sorts of misinformation that was going on there. It was just fascinating. But I like the idea that he's like especially poisoning it right now, so that these Uruks come back faster.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting how Aragorn introduced himself as Strider first. And I was like, I don't know. Because didn't Éomer clock him on that and then was like, is that your real name or something? And then he was like, this, like, his full Isildur's heir name. But I don't, like, then that was a whole moment where he kind of grew up and, like, I don't know, the confidence. And then you said, like, the height difference and the power dynamic and everything. But he just said he was Strider. And I guess he really kind of was Strider in that moment because he was really, like, tracking and being a ranger. But then he had to turn into like kingly bargaining almost, like relation. So I don't know. I wonder, or like, is he ever gonna be Strider again? That's what I was thinking. I was like,
is he leaving it behind right here? He's like, all right, I guess that people give me weird looks when I say that.
And then they were like, oh, you should be called Wingfoot or something.
Yeah, for that run.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I like that he was just like subtly impressed about that. He's like, because at first he was throwing them shade. He's like, you guys are like, what did you think you were gonna do when you got them? Like, you're pursuing them in all the wrong ways. And then when he's like, it took us 3 days to get there, and he's like, oh, it took you 3 days to get all the way from the river to here.
Impressive.
He's like, okay, Wingfoot, or whatever his name was.
Okay, Wingfoot.
That's a great nickname too. I want that name, Wingfoot. Someone at the dog park the other day said, your dog is the most athletic dog I've ever seen. And that was like one of the most proud moments I've ever had. I was like, yeah, he is
athletic.
I like that when Legolas saw all the riders, he's like, there are 105.
Yeah.
Like he instant counted all of them.
There's like a comedic scene in, I think it's like Kung Pao or Kung Fu or whatever the movie was. It's like a dubbed movie. And there's like a massive army coming at the guy, and he just starts counting them. He's like, 1, 2, 3, 4. I feel like that was Legolas. Like there's this massive army coming at him. He's like, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there's 105 of them coming right at him.
Like I just assume he's a fast counter, but yeah, maybe he just took his time, And I love that Gimli stood up for Galadriel again. So good.
Yeah. That was one of the scenes I wrote down because I loved it.
He defends her. He's not just talk. His life is on the line, and he is confident.
As Gimli rose and planted his feet firmly apart. His hand gripped the handle of his axe, and his dark eyes flashed. Give me your name, horse master, and I will give you mine. And more besides, he said. As for that, said the rider, staring down at the dwarf, the stranger should declare himself first. Yet I am named Éomer, son of Aemond, and I am called the third marshal of the Riddermark. Then Éomer, son of Aemond, third marshal of the Riddermark, let Gimli, the dwarf of Glóin's son, warn you against foolish words. You speak evil of that which is fair beyond the reach of your thought, and only little wit can excuse you. Éomer's eyes blazed, and the men of Rohan murmured angrily and closed in, advancing their spears. I would cut your head off, beard and all, master dwarf, if it stood a little bit higher from the ground, said Éomer. He stands not alone, said Legolas, bending his bow and fitting an arrow with hands that move quicker than sight. You would die before your stroke fell. The quick relationship of Gimli and Legolas is beautiful here too. Yep. They go from hating each other a few chapters ago in Lothlorien to now they're like, he's literally willing to die because Legolas will die if he kills one guy.
They're not good at de-escalating. I'll say that.
Everyone's like, hold on.
Okay.
Let's start over.
Like, good thing Legolas was that quick, because I feel like in some cases someone might have been able to jump out, or maybe this is normal, but I was like, this is really intense.
Yeah, it's so good.
And I love that it was just like the movie though, because it's such a good scene in the movie. So I feel like they did it. They quoted it exactly.
A lot of people talk about how this book is totally different. Like I made the essay on the movie and the book differences. And in the Fellowship, there's a few, but there's not like a massive amount of them.
Mm-hmm.
People say there's so many in this book. This is where it like really goes off the rails, and the movies get like so
interesting.
different. But up until this point, they're like dead on.
Yeah,
I'm
it does feel like it.
If you're a book lover and you're
Yeah.
watching this movie to start, the first like 20-ish minutes are exactly what the book is. It's so good.
Very satisfying.
I mean, you don't have like the literary notes. Like in the first 2 chapters, you don't know if Merry and Pippin are alive. In the movie, you know that after the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different, but it's still so very. I think it's very accurate. I think it's good.
I thought it was interesting on my next page, right after Aragorn says who he is. For a moment, it seemed to the eyes of Legolas that a white flame flickered on the brow of Aragorn like a shining crown.
Yeah.
And I thought,
Okay.
it clarified Legolas.
Yeah.
I think that was actual elf magic. Like he is truly seeing a crown, like it is forming. And it made me wonder if we're going to hear from Legolas' perspective in the future of seeing that crown more clearly glittering on his head.
Because those happen with did it happen with Gimli? I think it happened with Gimli potentially in the previous book or something. I forgot exactly what it was. I gotta go back and remember that. But it happens with Durin when he looks in the mirror and he sees the crown of stars around his head. So there's something like different and there's something like ethereal and weird about that. And that's what I was noting too when Legolas sees him and he sees like this crown around his head. And I was the same. I was curious if we're gonna get more of that. If we're gonna see, you know, this crown more and more materialized, the more and more he becomes a man, and the more and more he actually becomes the king.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really cool point.
I don't remember where it was at all, but didn't it say something about their dreams being like the future, like being able to see that in dreams?
Wait, who? Elves?
Yeah, elves. Because I don't remember how it worded it at all, but it made me think about when Arwen was about to leave for like the Undying Land, and she was like, oh, like you saw, like we had happiness and we had a child. And I was like, oh, maybe that was actually like I don't know, that was real, or like she really saw the future and it wasn't just some hallucination type of thing. It's like weird in the movie.
Yeah.
But
and even like looking in the you want to call it the Mirror of Erised, the thing that Galadriel brought out. What was the thing that is that mirror?
No, yeah, not that's the Mirror of Galadriel
thing.
A Mirror of Galadriel, yeah, the basin.
Yeah.
But I feel like she said something like, you know, you could see the past, you could see the future, you could see a different perspective now, and that's just a different, deeper kind of elf magic. But maybe elves can summon a taste of that at any point, or maybe not summon, but it just happens. You just go to bed and you're like, oh, whoa, I just saw something that wasn't here. And I think that's real. And that kind of connects on a human level where you have dreams or deja vu and you're like, was that real? Does this mean something? What was this dream about? Why did I dream that? And if you're an elf, then you're thinking this could actually be real.
Yeah.
Where did this come from?
Yeah, honestly, it's a great point. Yeah. The whole idea of like the dream world and the real world, it like meshes in this really well. It's not confusing, but I like that it's just unanswered. It's a bit more ambiguous, which I think is great. One of the funniest part in this whole entire 3 chapters to me so far was when they're talking about halflings, and Éomer, they're talking about like what hobbits are, and Éomer goes, halflings, laughed the writer that stood beside Éomer. Halflings, but they are only little people in old songs and children's tales out of the north. Do we walk in legends or on the green earth in the daylight? He's like, these things aren't real.
Yeah.
Like,
as he stares at an elf and a dwarf. It's just so funny.
I know.
I loved that.
It was so funny. I was like, this guy's out here not thinking these other things are real. These halflings are real. And then all of a sudden, it was so funny to me.
Like such a funny part of the lore here, because to him, that's a like mythical creature.
Yeah.
It like could be a leprechaun, could be anything else. But here we are in this fantasy land as we read, but seeing people have weird perspectives on it. I was laughing at that one.
It was so good. And then my favorite part, or one of my favorite parts, says, some years ago, the Lord of the Black Land wished to purchase horses of us at great price, but we refused him, for he put beasts to evil use. Then he sent plundering orcs, and they carry off what they can, choosing always the black horses. Few of these are now left. For that reason, our feud with the orcs is bitter. I was sending memes about this when people were talking about this in Discord because there's have you guys seen the Lego Batman movie?
No.
God, one of the best movies
man.
ever made. Or no, this is actually just the Lego movie, not the Lego Batman movie, but Batman.
I've seen the Lego movie.
Remember when Batman is in the movie and they're all working on their ships and Batman all of a sudden
Man,
goes,
it's been a while.
give me all the black bricks. He's like, I only work in black and very, very dark gray.
Yeah.
This is the Sauron right now.
That's
He
so
goes into
funny.
Rohan.
He's like,
white horses,
that brown horse is going to ruin our aesthetic. We cannot.
Yeah, exactly. If he's anything, he's concerned about the aesthetics and the look of this. Sauron is a man of
Literally.
order. He wants things exactly his way.
That's so funny.
Only black horses. It was so funny to me. I love that. And I love that in this little bit of information too, you get the idea that they are not selling these horses, that they're like a more upstanding
Yep.
group of people than we were led to believe.
What does he do with the horses? He just
That's a great question. I actually didn't think he
puts
was.
beasts to
yeah,
evil use.
I didn't really think he was like using these horses like people were riding them in any way. I think like the evil use was like he uses them to like dig out fields, or like, you know, he ties rope to them so they can, like a bunch of horses, and like, you know, I don't know, take a bunch of dirt out of this. I don't know. It's like not like practical war uses.
Yeah,
which seems
right.
I
more
thought he
ethical.
was gonna
Right.
like crossbreed them into like some evil
yeah, here
creature,
comes some weird crossbreeding with the environment over here.
like some dino horse situation. I was like, I don't know, where do orcs come from?
Yeah, that's a great
like
question.
they're goblins, and then isn't there like some fallen
Well, goblins
like,
and
elf
yeah,
person that are like I don't know.
I don't know where they. I don't know. Uruk-hai are they seem like a weird crossbreed between a few different things. I don't exactly know what Uruk-hai are, but orcs and goblins I think are the same. But they're I don't know where they came from, where they come from, what they are. 'Cause
Orcs
in the
and
Right.
goblins
movies-
are the same.
Yeah,
Really?
I was asking people in different chats, and
Hmm.
apparently they're the same. They're the same
They
name
feel
for different things.
to me.
But this is the confusing point in the next chapter I will talk about in a little bit. But like, how many factions were there at this group? I kept losing
Right.
track of what the
Yes.
factions
Same.
were.
Yeah, I
and it
was
was
getting
like
confused.
it was all over the
Yeah.
place. But yeah.
Wait,
Where
could
they
the
come from is
horses have
interesting.
been for the ring wraiths?
That's also
but
what
I think he's
thought.
getting a ton of them. I don't think he's just
Like,
getting
yeah, it's
9.
not like 9. It's a
Yeah.
lot.
Maybe
yeah.
he has like, 500 as a backup plan.
yeah,
And he's
tons
like,
of
oh,
them.
your horse died, jump on this one. And they just keep doing that.
Do orcs ever ride horses in the movies?
I was gonna say I don't think
think so.
see that, right?
I
We
feel
see
like
them on
they probably
wargs.
have to. Maybe that's just like the aesthetic that the movie gave. Maybe I'm just discounting that, but I don't know.
Like maybe we'll see that later in the books where like orcs are on
An
horses.
orc riding a horse.
It just
feels
feels
wrong.
yeah,
Yeah.
it feels so
Yeah.
wrong.
Although orcs are different in my mind than they are in the movie, way different.
So true.
Because there's the one moment in the Mines of Moria, which was like a really cool moment where the orc chieftain gets up and like pretty much like throws Boromir to the ground and almost kills. I think he almost kills Aragorn, but I forgot what happened in that moment. Or he skewers
Mhm.
Frodo, and then like the whole Fellowship gang up, and this guy's like, it was almost like his skill was better than anybody else in that room. He seemed like
Yep.
he was. They said he was like almost like a full grown man. He looked tall, and the orcs, and even in the next chapter, seem a lot more intimidating and serious than I think sometimes I think initially that they were in the movies.
And
Totally
like the
different.
communication, they seem much
Yeah.
more organized.
There's
Something
different
about it.
languages.
yeah,
Yeah.
right? That was cool.
I was like, they're bilingual? Orcs speak
Yeah.
more languages than me? It just
Orc
feels like
school.
weird. I was like,
Yeah.
you almost feel like you could reason with them. They're like, I don't know, a whole new dynamic. I like.
Mm.
Deep.
Yeah, seriously. You guys, anything else in this chapter? I mean, we'll talk about at the end just where this little old wizard comes from or who it is.
When it talked about Shadowfax, the most precious of all the king's steeds, chief of the Miadras,
I like
The sire of their race was the great horse of Eorl that knew the speech of men.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, knows it, like understands it or speaks it? Because either way, very
Talking
fascinating. And I think that would also make sense if it was a descendant of that horse, and Shadowfax kind of understood more than your average horse would. Which I thought was an interesting idea.
Well, that's what they were mad at Gandalf for, right? Because Shadowfax
Yeah.
stopped responding and was wild and
when it got back, it didn't listen to anybody.
Yeah.
I forgot that's why, because Shadowfax did return. It lives, yay! Way to go, Shadowfax.
Yeah, I loved. Yeah, it was untamed. It was a wild.
Yeah.
When
after
did we
that was
lose
great.
Shadowfax? Was it the same time as Bill? Could they have been broing
no.
out for a little bit?
It
No.
said like he came back 7 days ago from this.
Yeah, I think he sends him back when he gets to Rivendell. I think he has no need for it.
Oh, and then
Because they don't go out with.
So they never had
they only
Shadowfax
go with
after
Bill.
Rivendell.
And
Yeah.
They don't
okay.
even want to go with Bill because he's.
Mm.
But Sam and
Yeah,
his
they
connection
kept
is
Bill
too deep.
for-
Sam needs his pet. I love it.
Yep.
What if that random piece of flesh that they handed Merry and Pippin, what
Ugh.
if that was Bill?
Oh, don't
no,
say that.
Is it too much?
Are you kidding me?
Sorry.
Wes
I'm
farted
just
at
thinking
that
that's
'cause
like the
she-
only
yeah.
option of meat.
Yeah, I mean, it does make you wonder what they get.
Gosh, that's depressing. What the heck?
Sorry.
I like that Legolas and Gimli started sharing a horse, and
Yeah,
they
that's-
don't even
yeah.
need a
They
saddle.
don't even need a saddle. I know.
Like Sam.
Way to
I do
go.
love too, like his ability to control horses. When Legolas jumps on that thing, it's like even the men of Rohan were impressed with this.
Yeah.
He like
Yep.
understood the horse, like tamed it, and like that moment he was already tamed, but like had this connection with this horse.
I liked when Aragorn said the Council of Gandalf was not founded on the foreknowledge of safety for himself or others.
Mm.
There are some things that it's better to begin than to refuse, even though the end may be dark.
I love that.
It's like they kind of know what they're in for, and
Yeah.
it isn't about survival. It's about doing what's right, regardless.
Yeah.
Almost at once, sleep laid hold on them. I was like, "Oh, Legolas is sleeping," and then it went into that whole like weird
And then
thing.
he just
I was
left.
like, "Oh, or not really."
Is
so
this
much.
when the wizard is here? Or that was the other chapter.
Yeah,
It was the end of this
I
chapter,
marked them,"
think.
said Aragorn, "but I marked also that this old man had a hat, not a hood." So
Yeah.
he's talking about it. Did I underline that?
Why is that
Like an
significant?
Wait,
Why-
Sauron's
why did he
supposed to
notice
have a
that?
hood?
Well, I thought that too. I was like, of all the things, he like maybe he's just like trying to lighten
Yeah.
the mood with Gimli, and he's like, "Well, don't worry, because this guy had a
Yeah.
a hat, not a hood."
But he said somebody
But
said
it also
that.
said like an old man hooded and cloaked. So I'm
Yeah.
like, what? I'm lost. Did
Yeah.
they all see a different version of an old man?
Whoa.
Because it
Interesting.
literally said hooded, and then he says hat, not a hood.
Interesting. I
So
love
what?
that.
Weird. Who's this old dude?
What
Maybe
if
they
he has
did.
a hat on under his hood?
Double whammy.
Oh.
And so is this
That's what Legolas saw.
Yeah.
is this
Aragorn
coming
only saw the hat.
from
Gimli only saw the
Fangorn?
hood. I don't know. I
Is
think
this
this is coming out
Saruman?
of. Yeah, it seems
Is
like
this? It's like beckoning them
Yeah.
in a little bit.
Not necessarily. Like maybe beckoning them in. I think it's just like almost messing with them. The horses are gone. I don't know if this guy stole the horses. It seems like to me like this guy was like on the edge of the firelight,
Mm-hmm.
just like dancing around in the like in Fangorn and like the
Mm.
branches of Fangorn. I don't know where he comes from. I think the only two options really are Saruman or Gandalf.
Yeah.
I would say it's Gandalf, but I don't know.
I don't know who it is.
Ever since you said
I'm stuck.
Saruman, I'm like going back and forth between the two. Anyway,
An old bent man leaning on a staff.
Oh, because yeah,
That's
maybe
very
I was reading
Gandalf-y.
the wrong part. Kind of. It was like
Okay.
what Éomer said.
Suddenly, Gimli looked up, and there, just in the edge of the firelight, stood an old bent man leaning on a staff and wrapped in a great cloak. His wide-brimmed hat
his
was
hat.
pulled down over his eyes. Gimli sprang up. Both Aragorn and Legolas. Blah blah blah.
it's funky, whatever it is. I don't know.
The horses.
All right, let's jump on to the next chapter. You guys have anything else?
Right.
Just trying to figure this out.
I know. Next chapter is the Uruk-hai.
Merry and Pippin travel with the orcs, goblins, and Uruk-hai until they escaped
Mm-hmm.
when the riders of Rohan attacked. Merry
Yeah.
and Pippin ran into Fangorn before the battle ended.
I'm gonna, I think, do an essay on part of this chapter and like the literary analysis of the whole thing. This felt like maybe the most chaotic chapter where I felt the most lost in the whole series so far. Other than the Old Forest, which has the same kind of feel to it. Like I think Tolkien wants you to feel lost, so he like almost makes you confused with it. I thought it was like great, and I don't know that I like some people just chalked it up. You're like, oh, he was just not writing this section good. But I think this section is so different from the last. Like the Riders of Rohan section was so clean and organized. I felt like I followed that to a T.
Yeah, you're right.
And then all of a sudden I get to this chapter and I'm like, where are these factions coming from? What is the debate that they're having with all this? And you are getting it through Merry's perspective. Or no, through Pippin's perspective. Right, Pippin? I think you're getting it through Pippin's perspective.
I feel like, it might have jumped.
I think, because Pippin's the one that runs out.
And then but then most of it I think was Pippin.
So it does make sense that he's confused through this whole thing of where these are coming from. And so you as an audience are also confused. But I just thought it was great writing.
Yeah. No, that's a great point because it's kind of jarring. It's disorienting. You're like, what's going on? But yeah, that probably is how you're supposed to feel. I'm curious now if I'm going to see that in other chapters where it's like disorienting. But then when you're back with the king, it feels a little more like organized. You're on a mission.
It's good order.
Planned.
Within the orcs themselves, though, there is a lot more order than I thought there was.
Yeah.
Like they're in their own little groups.
Yeah.
Their own little, I don't want to say like governments,
factions,
but
cults.
they're separate and
Languages.
they don't know each other.
So there's orcs from Sauron, Moria, and Isengard. Are there any? Is there 3? Is there only 2? Did I miss something?
I think there has to be at least 3.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't tell because they kept saying go north. Yeah. So that must be Moria.
And they keep using, what was that one term they keep using?
They were talking about like a town.
Yeah.
And then I didn't know, like, is that a Mordor town? Is that like, I'm going to see what I underlined. But at first I thought it was someone's name. And then I was like, what is this place? Is this some other leader?
Do they all have the same orders though? Because like
but it kind of seems like no.
Because one, I don't remember his name, was saying like don't mess with them, don't search them.
Ugluk was the
Ugluk.
At least
and then
that's
he was like killing people.
Or Ugluk.
I was trying to figure out who they were in the movie.
Ugluk is the ones with Isengard. He's the Uruk-hai, and he has the group of Uruk-hai. And then there's a few that are coming from Moria. And they seem like they want to do their own bidding. They seem like they're not allegiant. They're like, they're freelance warriors right here.
But what were they doing? Just trying to get vengeance? Like that was
literally
it. They're like, you killed our brothers. Which is also kind of crazy. Then you almost feel bad for them. It's like they're just hanging out. They've been there for a while, and all of a sudden people come charging in and kill people. They're like, whoa, what's up?
Yeah. And then there's some from Sauron here too. And the guy I think from Sauron's camp is the main. Is that Grishnook?
Yeah, I think so because he's the one who was talking about the Nazgul.
Yeah, he was talking about the Nazgul, talking about taking him to this one little like weird city, and then the other guy was like no, and he's just chopping heads off. It was the tension in this was just crazy. It was weird.
A winged Nazgul awaits us northward on the east bank, going at once to Lugburs.
Lugbors, yeah. Weird name.
Yeah, so weird. And I was getting confused between the 3 and who was on each of those sides. And then there was a point where it felt like they were starting to split up a little. Like someone was running ahead, but then they came back. And then it felt like someone was in the forest.
They went to the forest.
But then they came back.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, these guys are.
And what were they doing there? I thought some of them were going to be left over. Even when Merry and Pippin left and they went to the forest.
Right.
They said they're like looking at the battle and like they're looking at it from like a clearing or like a hill or something like that.
They're getting close.
Yeah, this is bad. Yeah. But then some of them had already come back. And so it was just intense.
Yeah, it was all over the place. But I think that, again, I think it's a great bit of writing because it's this small little dude that you can't like see, the full world on. And they're just like, you just get his perspective. It was great writing through his perspective. I loved it. And then I'm curious this is another question that I had about the magic system. So we talked about like, names, but this liquid that they're using.
Yeah.
Bill's blood.
Lizzie, no. But that would be super powered, honestly.
Dude,
Yeah.
it's perverting your mind.
Save the liquid. What is that? That your question?
Is it just alcohol, or is there any magic behind it?
Oh, there's got to be.
I don't
magic.
want to. Yeah, I feel like it's something gross, like a concoction.
Fair point.
But it
could
works.
be. But it actually
really
works.
well.
I know.
What
I
if,
thought it was gonna have negative
Yeah.
side effects,
Yeah.
but it doesn't feel like it did. It also feels like they legit healed Mary because he had the gash on his head or whatever, and then they smeared something
By
on
a lot
it.
of pain, but it
Again,
says he has a scar there
a
for the rest
scar,
of his
brown
life.
scar forever.
But still,
Okay, but still, it healed it
instant
up.
healing. Yeah.
And so, whatever this magical healing thing, it works on orc skin the same as hobbit skin. So this is universal medicine here,
Right? They get or orcs are getting universal healthcare in Mordor.
yeah.
which I just didn't anticipate
Yeah.
that they would even have medical things. In my head,
seriously.
orcs are traveling around. You got a cut. Well,
You deal
we're
with
gonna
it.
lop that arm
Yeah.
off if it
Mhm.
doesn't heal, or like maybe a part of me even wondered if they can heal.
Yeah.
Like orcs
They
seem
felt
like if you're not healing, you just
disposable.
like staple
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
closed or whatever. Yeah, disposable.
But again, these are the Uruks that are healing, the Uruk-hai that are healing.
So they're a little more
they're from
sophisticated.
Sauron,
yeah,
right?
maybe Sauron is giving them
Does
this
he
stuff.
make some
I'm
potion
curious.
for them?
I feel like, but this still makes me think that orcs from Mordor they have some of this in some measure.
Yeah.
Sauron's obviously powerful, but well, how does he treat his orcs?
Mm.
Saruman seems like he's treating
Well,
them
maybe the
decently
orcs
well.
are disposable, and then the Uruk-hai they're trying to save.
Yeah,
them.
that's true. That's great. It's a great point. I don't know.
I like that they called Boromir a great warrior. We
Yeah.
slew the great warrior.
Yeah, I know that you're like they're heaping praise on his name. I love that too. Even in the previous chapter when Éomer learns of Boromir's death, they're like all the riders Rohan are like,
Mm.
what? Because Boromir was like buddies with them and like he was a fearsome warrior.
Yep.
I also I don't know why, maybe because I'm tall, but I love the details about Éomer being tall and Boromir being tall.
Right.
It's just like
Éomer
these
was
are
the
men of
tallest
stature.
of the group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too because Aragorn's not as tall as him. And this is like, it's like a near biblical line of like, you know, it doesn't matter about the height of a man. It matters about the stature of his heart, I guess. And
Yep.
Aragorn has that. And Boromir had that. You know, I still think he has that. He's still one of my favorites. Éomer, I still think has that. He's like a kingly, like very regal, but he doesn't have it in the same degree as Aragorn. Aragorn like says something and all of a sudden he shrinks in power and Aragorn rises in power.
Yep.
And it's like these guys, like the literal height, you can like their aura. It's just fascinating stuff. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, this concoction that they're drinking is so bizarre to me. Very curious if there's like magic behind this or something.
Maybe it's like elf magic that they've stolen.
Stolen it from us.
Stolen it from the lady.
A few comments on Pippin. First of all, is Merry going crazy or is he just making Pippin try to laugh? Because he has this one thing where he like puts the brown stuff. He has a scar to the end of his days, and all of a sudden he goes over to Pippin. He says, "Hello, Pippin." He said, "So you've come on this little expedition too? Where do we get bed and breakfast?" Is he trying to make him laugh, or is he actually
I
going crazy?
took it as trying to make him laugh.
Okay.
Yeah.
But wow, that'd be really sad if he's actually like being affected and kind of going a little
yeah, maybe this
loopy
medicine
and-
is like making him.
That's an
loopy or something
interesting
like that.
thought.
I don't think it is, but at the same point, with Pippin, I also think like his plan to act like Gollum seemed
That threw me off.
dumb to me. I'm like, what is
Yeah.
he doing?
Yeah, I was like,
He's talking about a
Yeah.
deal with Grishnook, and he's like, you're gonna
Yeah.
want what I have, and I'm like, what's
I'm
the
like,
plan
are
in
you
his
about
head?
to mention this? Because you don't know that he knows.
Yeah.
I mean, also he was like getting groped at the time, so
Yeah.
he like can tell if he's looking for something. But still, I'm like, don't mention the ring to anybody. Don't even hint that there is an object
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
value. The Gollum thing threw me off, but it might have just been a desperate like thing. And it comes to mind. He's heard the stories from Bilbo. He thinks it could keep him alive more, but they were already keeping him alive, and they kind of knew it. So yeah, I didn't quite get that. It didn't seem to make the most sense to me.
Yeah.
And
bizarre
did
stuff.
the orcs know they were looking for a ring? Like, did they
Well,
actually?
I kind of didn't think any of them knew, and smart
They-
too,
they-
because
yeah.
theoretically, would any of them have taken it?
Yeah.
Probably. Like if you see the ring,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Although the Uruk-hai do seem somewhat loyal because they're talking about
To
a weapon.
Saruman.
Why wouldn't they just look for this weapon if that was the case?
Right. It's
They're-
like we
But
have
they
instructions.
told them not to search.
We have to. Yeah. Don't
So they're
search.
bringing
Bring them
back
back. We're
unspoiled,
gonna do
yeah,
it.
that's what he's playing into.
If they had the ring, like, I'm just curious what would have happened, or would
Yeah.
it have?
It'd be gone.
That's one of the biggest questions
Called
I
to
have
some
for this
orcs.
whole thing is, I mean, we were talking before about the temptation that everyone would have if they had the ring, and all of them would eventually fall. Everyone would eventually fall if they had the ring. But then that's like good people falling into evil, like Galadriel, who seems like one of the most pure beings. The only person that I think wouldn't is Gimli. You know, Gimli is the best. He would never fall.
Nice.
But what happens if it's put in the hands of someone bad? If the Balrog got it, or if the Watcher in the water got it?
Whoa.
Like, there's like it seems like these creatures are getting pulled into the power of the ring. Like, if an orc got it, what would happen? I don't think it's. And Galadriel mentions this too. Like, you have to have immense power in order to be able to wield the power of the ring. So I think only beings like I think if an orc got it, it wouldn't really know what to do. It wouldn't really have the
Right.
power to be able
That
to
makes
do
It
it.
would, like
sense.
have no effect.
Yeah. I think I don't
yeah.
think it would really have an effect. I think it would have some effect. Like, it maybe make them a little stronger. Like, it would increase, like, you know, some of their own natural abilities a bit. But I don't think it would do much.
But it would just use an orc maybe to get to
Yeah,
the
exactly.
next
Yep.
critter with more
Yeah.
sentience or
It's
whatever.
like almost like the Elder Wand, I feel like, in Harry
Mm.
Potter. Like, it's like almost using people in order to get to a stronger master.
Right.
You kind of feel like that. It like chooses its allegiance in some way.
Right.
Wow. Joe Rowling stole a lot from
Yep.
Lord of the
A
Rings.
lot.
Ooh, people are giving me height order. Wait, Aragorn is nearly 7 foot.
I thought he was tall.
What?
What the?
Yeah.
How?
I'm totally
is
missed that.
he-
Okay, so
That's
he has.
really
Wait,
has
what
tall.
is
stature.
the heights? Did they list it
It's-
out?
say he's nearly 7 foot tall. He's taller than Gandalf, or people are asking
Oh
questions.
my goodness.
Sounds like a tall tale.
Nice. I'm curious where that comes from. Also, I guess as Aragorn looked to stand taller next to Éomer, we already know Éomer was the tallest of the bunch.
Yeah,
Is he actually growing in height as he grows in
Huh.
kingliness?
I like
'Cause
that.
We've seen
It's
this
like
a few
magical
times where
realism
he's
of
like
it.
getting a little taller. Like,
Aragorn 6'6".
Aragorn 6'6"? Is that movie?
Elendil 7'10". Hobbits 4'1".
7'10".
Gimli's 4'6". That's
4'6". That's actually
crazy.
taller than I thought.
Oh, in the
6'6".
film, Boromir's 6'4" in the books.
That's
Gandalf
a
is.
healthy
I'm
height.
taller than Gandalf in the books.
How tall is Gandalf?
Oh my goodness.
5'6".
No.
What?
That's
I have
wild.
never pictured Gandalf
Yeah.
as like
A
Small
short
5'6".
man. Because
Gandalf's
his
a short
hat
king.
adds like a foot and a half.
True. So true. But in the movies, I think
He's
Ian
tall.
McKellen's kind of
Yeah.
tall.
Aragorn is 6'6". That blows my mind.
Yeah, that really does. Because I think the movies have hit me in some subconscious ways, you know?
Well,
Ryan, our
Vigo-
pun master, goes more like Aragorn.
Nice.
Nice, Ryan.
Love that.
The
Oh,
pun
that's great.
master.
Vigo
Very
Mortensen's
important role.
5'11".
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, tracks.
6'6". That's tall. What else do you guys have in this chapter before we wrap it up?
Ah,
I don't know. I accidentally read the Treebeard chapter
No,
Whoa,
because I thought we were
Lizzie!
reading 4, and it's so
Lizzie.
good.
I cannot
It's
wait.
so
to
good?
read it.
Yes.
Cool.
It's so good.
Because this is one of those things that I've heard was a boring set of chapters with the trees.
Well, I just love trees in general, so maybe it is boring. I don't know.
No, but you know what?
I
I
don't
don't think
think
I'm
it
going to be
is.
bored with any of these
Yeah,
chapters.
same.
I'm loving
There's
it.
a lot of dialogue.
and reading slow, but enjoying the
Yeah.
pacing. Oh, it's so
Yeah.
good.
I
Dialogue
remember-
is good.
Because I remember your brother said that at the beginning. Like, the second
Yeah.
book is totally different. You might get bored at certain times.
Yep.
I don't think I'm getting, like, when I was going through the first one, I was like, the section that people sometimes say are boring, I'm like so enamored by. They're so good.
Right.
So
Yeah.
And even like
just
the
read
tracking,
slow.
you had
This-
mentioned it was a little slow listening, but
Mm.
I don't mind it. I feel like I'm just diving into the world. I don't
Yeah.
mind sitting there and whatever
Yeah.
the thing is. So
And all the other books excite me too. Like, I can't wait. I just keep hearing things about the children of Hurin. Someone said, I think I saw like a thumbnail video for something that popped up on my YouTube feed that was like, oh, it was this girl who does it, Jess of the Shire. She does like Lord of the Rings video, and I think she called it the Game of Thrones of Tolkien. And I like that sounds so fascinating to me. Like a bit more complex of this like politics and the world and everything like that.
Yep.
So I think I'd like that. Any other points?
Nah, just Lombus.
There's red sunrises, but they never said that the blood is.
Although he said they run as if the very whips of their master were behind them.
Yeah.
And then one of the points that was most disappointing to me was in the book, Aragorn doesn't break his toe when he kicks the helmet.
Yeah.
It was just like a big thing. I was very bummed about that.
I love how playful the hobbits were after they got away. Like immediately, like kind of pretending. Although now wondering if they were going a little crazy, but like they're kind of pretending like they're on vacation almost again. Like I forget what they were kind of saying, but they're just keeping it light. Like, oh, we're just walking around. Let's go to the forest. Somehow able to joke even after all this.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's huge. That's actually something that I was. I think I had that as a note in one of mine too. Like Aragorn's ability to know the morale of a group, or just like,
oh yeah,
I think that's fantastic. Or like even the Hobbit's ability to just joke in certain situations. I don't know. I feel like for Tolkien, like a language nut, I think he knows the importance of some of that. And one of the last questions I have though is when they're being pursued by Grishnuk. It's like an arrow. That seems like they say this arrow hit him, and then it's like I think there's a line in the book where it's like it's as if it was guided by fate. What do you guys think about the role of fate in this book? This is like a question your high school English teacher asks you. What is the role of fate in The Lord of the Rings? Because there
aimed
seems,
with skill or guided by fate.
Right? It seems like there's some kind of push and pull.
Yeah.
There's that part where the horse jumps over Merry and Pippin too.
Yeah,
And it was
true.
like one of those moments of like did he see
did it
us?
just know?
Yeah.
Well, that was for their elven cloaks too. Like they were almost disguised by their elven cloaks. And I love that the riders of Rohan almost blew by the trio because they were wearing their cloaks. But there's something to me that just seems interesting about like the whole fate idea in this. It almost seems like there's like this subtext of the gods are like jockeying for power. And it's like, you remember, have you guys seen The Hunger Games?
Yeah.
Remember when like there's like the donors and they can like send gifts to their tributes?
Yeah.
Nice. It's almost like the gods are doing this. The gods are like, ooh, I'm going to change this arrow so it hits him so like, they can
just
get away from
nudge
this.
In the right direction.
They just give him like small nudges. But then it seems like there's other like, I don't know if there's evil gods in this world or realm, but like it seems like there's forces that are pulling the ring into the hands of Sauron. And both of these are just like opposed. And like Frodo is caught in the middle. Like almost every member of the Fellowship is like caught in the middle, being pulled between one side or the other. Is fate guiding them, or is it just like random happenstance and like just chance? And it's an interesting. I just think it's an interesting dynamic in the book. It just feels like things are just happening by fate.
And I like the magic of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like even just the idea of like when the horse jumped over them, they're wearing elvish cloaks and no rider would have seen them. But I like thinking that the horse has an instinct that's beyond what the man might be able to detect.
Agreed. Yeah.
So a little bit of magic there.
Yep.
And fate. Yeah.
So cool. Anything else? Where you touch on wrap some things up?
I just gotta praise Éomer a little bit, the third marshal of the Mark, because he dismounted and fought Ugluk sword to sword.
Yeah.
Just like legit.
Sick.
I feel like he had other options, but he's like, no, I'm doing it this way.
Éomer is honestly
great.
He's one of my favorites right now. Part of the reason because I love Boromir so much, and Éomer loved Boromir as well, and like he was praising him. But I love like his stature. Like I know he's talking bad about Galadriel, but I have like this weird love tension with all these characters. Like I'm starting to like I love Gimli. He's my favorite. So I'm like anybody who's opposed to Gimli, I hate. But then Éomer is opposed to Gimli in some ways because he's opposed to Galadriel. Like it's like a weird little love
But I feel like he
Longer
had
than
a
triangle.
decent little apology too, though.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
Yeah, he did have a little apology.
Like he
for
was
sure.
kind of like, what did he say? Something about like learning how to speak more kindly of the lady. Like
Yeah.
it was like he was
Yeah.
trying to throw an apology in there, and he
Kinda fell
trusted
flat a
them
little
and
bit,
gave
but-
them the horses. I guess I was kind of like, I like him.
Yeah, I like him too. I think
Yeah, he
he's
just
a
seems
great
like
character.
a good dude.
I'm excited for Theoden.
Yeah, same.
That's like my
Mhm.
most anticipated character.
Whoa.
All right, let's do. You could just still do basket of mushrooms. Is there any other gift? Is there any other thing? The gifts of
The
Galadriel.
llama.
Yeah,
From-
right.
Yes.
Like, is there a thing, or would
We
you
could
say
do-
gifts of Galadriel? Who gets
We'll
the?
say-
Oh, I
Who gets the
loved
golden
when they were
hair?
like, I wish we had the light that she gave Frodo.
Yeah,
They were like
yeah,
jealous
yeah.
of him. I was like,
Earendil.
that's so good.
I love that. That was great. So let's go over what our favorite moment was in these 3 chapters, our favorite character, and then who wins the Hairs of Galadriel, which is the hottest character.
Oh yeah.
Right, that's what we're doing?
The hairs.
Was it like the Hot Tamale Award?
I
with
don't know. You do whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's our
I feel like
podcast.
it's gonna take longer to settle into the right ones, but
I
it could
know.
be something different each time.
Pick
You
it.
know?
All right,
Pick a
we'll do
new
the
one.
Hair of Galadriel,
As what? The best.
like the
Overall?
hottest character.
Oh,
The hot tamale.
the hot tamale is just the hair.
The Hair of Galadriel. Yeah, the hottest character is Galadriel is a babe.
That's so.
I'm giving that one my favorite. He's like, I think. Okay, so I'll go. My favorite character in these was Aragorn. Just his ability to make decisions and figure things
Mhm.
out, and just plotting down the course he knows he needs to go down. I think that was so admirable. My favorite moment was his meeting. Actually, his respect that he gave to Boromir was probably my favorite moment. And
Oh,
just
yeah.
like the whole ending that you had with Boromir was just supreme. But then I also loved his meeting with Éomer, and Éomer is my hot tamale or my Hair of Galadriel. He wins the Hair of Galadriel award
Nice.
because I think he was just like a fiery person. I don't think we've seen a person quite like him before. I loved his stature. He just seems like he commands the respect of the people in his unit. Like he knows even what to do. Like he sends these riders away, and then he has a smaller conversation with them, and it's like he knows how to command them. He knows like the feelings of this group right now. So I really like him. Those are my awards.
Oh, am I next? Or you
Yeah.
next? Oh, I'm gonna say Aragorn was my favorite character, and my favorite moment was also with Éomer, the Riders of Rohan. I think actually the battle, like the tension there, it's close.
Yeah.
Or when they first met, but like the orc fighting and running around, the chaos of all of that, them lighting their fires on the outside. I liked all of that. And then Hot Tamale, Pippin.
Ooh, good one.
I think just keeping it lighthearted
Yeah.
and trying to run away and then leaving signs for Aragorn
Mhm.
and kind of that trust, the hope that someone would be following them. I thought that was pretty great.
I like that.
Okay, I hate this. My favorite character is probably Aragorn.
Mhm.
Favorite moment. This is so stupid, but this is my favorite moment, and I'll say it. When he lays down on the ground and
That was so
listens-
cool. Why is that stupid?
No, because my first thought, he said something like the earth is like hating like the feet that
Mhm.
trot, like something like that. And I was like, if I wrote like a really like sinister Lorax movie, like I would use that quote. And I was like, I need to
Whoa.
write because like the Lorax is
Ooh.
my favorite thing
You should
ever.
rewrite the Lorax.
I was like, yeah, if I wrote like
That's
some
excellent.
really like serious evil version of the Lorax. So that was my favorite moment, favorite character. Hot tamale, I don't know. Hairy tamale.
Hairs of Galadriel.
I don't know.
The hairy tamale.
The guy that shows up at the fire, mystery
Hmm.
man.
Whoa.
That was really
Yeah.
that's
I
cool.
don't know.
Come on.
Yeah.
Is that everything? Did I?
Yeah,
cover
that's
it?
perfect.
Okay.
Nailed it.
Good.
You know, when Gandalf's 5'6", it starts to make more sense that he could be the old man by
Yeah,
the fire.
for sure. That's
you
actually
know?
true. That's
Yeah.
a great point.
Because it feels like that couldn't be his description.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, all
Agreed.
right.
Dang, that's kind of cool. Well, thanks for joining us on our journey of the Fellowship of the First Time Readers. Until next time.
Yeah.
One of the last comments. Haha, look at all these dorks. I found my people.
Yeah.
Love that.
So
Lord of the Rings
Treebeard,
things.
what are we gonna do? 3 chapters again next time?
Yeah,
So
what are the next
good.
3?
Treebeard,
Beard.
the White Rider, unless I skipped one.
Ooh, and the King of the Golden Hall. Lizzie's chapter. Ooh, yeah, because that'll lead us right before.
Maybe we can watch.
Yeah, sneak them in.
Yeah.
I'll we'll like do it in like 2 weeks, the next one.
I don't know why.
Watch 'em, watch 'em.
Let's do it. Let's do it.